Justification is an act of God's free grace, wherein he pardoneth all our sins, and accepteth us as righteous in his sight, only for the righteousness of Christ imputed to us and received by faith alone. Now, I hope most of our listeners know that question and answer. Perhaps many of them have memorized it, and if you're starting to forget it because you memorized it years ago, review it, and because that is perhaps one of the greatest succinct statements on justification that we have in the English-speaking world.
Yes, it is, and it's quite an astounding statement. And there's a brief amplification of it in the larger Catechism 70, just to make our listeners aware of. And it's this: justification is an act of God's free grace unto sinners, in which he pardons all their sins, accepts and accounts their persons as righteous in his sight, not for anything wrought in them or done by them, but only for the perfect obedience and full satisfaction of Christ by God imputed to them and received by faith alone. Camden, I think when you ask the question, what is justification? I think everything pivots around the fact that justification entails, in its very essence, the imputation of the perfect obedience, full satisfaction. I would also add, but don't want to add, resurrection is involved here. But as far as our standards go, the perfect obedience and full satisfaction of Christ, that is what is imputed to the sinner. And it's not for anything wrought in him, the error of Rome, or anything done by him, which would be the error of all forms of neo-nomianism, where your justification depends on personal acts of obedience to God rather than resting on Christ's perfect obedience and full satisfaction. And then the second point is that justification is received by faith alone. Faith is the sole instrument of justification. Wonderfully succinct way of talking about a distinctively reformed understanding of justification.